Manuel, what does the date of the day of the attack of President Donald Trump on Saturday tell you? Which you say is the day 13 of the month 7 of the 2024.
Look at first glance, it tells me a lot with just the first two numbers, but I'm going to do full 1 and 4, 11, 13, 15, 15, 15, 15, and 4, 99, and 110. It's truly incredible that once again, 10-1 is Donald Trump's significant number this year, 10-1, and also the day Claudia officially takes office. I mean, it is truly incredible. And once again, it's the combination of 10 equals 1. What exactly does this mean? Well, you don't have to be a genius to see that the reaffirmation of Trump was inevitable if he was already set to win the elections. When he signaled his victory, it was clear. But now, with this attack, he's been transformed into a hero. Has transformed him into a hero. Nearly a saint, if you begin to listen to the Fox commentators or Christian commentators. It's considered a miracle. Other scenes show that right now, Trump is already seen as a miracle for surviving. Well, the truth is, it depends on your perspective, but it has truly been astonishing how he has been struck in the air. And nothing has happened to him. And well, it has happened on a date that is his top date. He's number 1 of this year. As I repeat, it's exactly the same number and numerical combination that Claudia will use to assume the presidency of the United States. So this makes him, everything seems very conflicting. I don't know, is like I have always believed that this world, as Pythagoras used to say, but it seems like a video game where you have to put the pieces together, and in this case there are 3 equal numbers. The 13th of July of the 2024, a numerological combination 10, which is equivalent to 1, which is the same year of Trump and the same year that Claudia will take office, because it indicates conflict more going to this number, because if again you go to 13-7, what does this number mean in numerology? 13-7 equals 4-7. You must reduce it to 4 minus 7. So Trump, they have tried to kill him on the day of the birth of the United States, because he was going to make a rebirth. The United States has been born again on that day. That is, if they start explaining it to you like this. They can explain it to you in any way, and from the numerological point of view, it would coincide. It is a rebirth. It represents a rebirth occurring precisely on the date that equates to 4 minus 7, as 13-7 numerologically equals 4-7. It is indeed quite intricate, very intricate, because it feels as though this is akin to a video game where someone is manipulating our actions, because these numbers have no name. To me, it's very striking now that he has brought out the date of the attack, because it was this date which is precisely the date of Trump. And as I say, a 13-7, which is like a 4-7. I don't know sometimes. It's mentioned, as Pythagoras was telling you before, that God created the world based on numerical sequences. Numbers are codes. And these numbers are sending us a code that I am telling you is going to lead us to a limit situation 2 years after Trump enters and 2 years after Claudia enters, because Claudia enters in December and Trump, in October, and Trump will enter in January 20. That is a couple of months later. Then are going to be some very confronted numbers, very confronted, sadly. I noticed some troubling numbers. I don't like it.
Could you explain what you mean when you say numbers are facing each other?
Well, the frequencies of the numbers are such that they actually face each other. In other words, you said it yourself. Tesla talks about frequencies and all this because their numbers are frequencies. And when you see such negative frequencies that are going to be interfering against each other, you cannot expect good results. Unfortunately, I believe that the two presidencies, both Claudia's and Trump's, are going to be, the problems we are facing are going to become extremely serious. They are going to be significantly depleted due to a brutal economic crisis that is unfolding. And as you know, Mexico has been treated like Trump's piñata. He has always thought of Mexico as his piñata. So when things start to go wrong, he is likely to blame Mexico, even though Mexico is not involved in this scenario. However, he will continue to blame them going on and on about immigration issues, about this, about that, about the other things, and even about China. So let me tell you, the last for Claudia after her third year is a very complicated situation, not because she caused it. Let's be honest, I believe she is going to do quite well. The issue is that she is going to face some serious challenges, some really serious challenges. She's going to encounter some very serious issues. Claudia, one of the first serious problems she faces is violence in Mexico. Violence is rampant, worsening daily. How will he stop this violence? Well, Trump has stated he plans to bomb the cartels. Is it going to do it or not? Well, if the situation gets very bad in the face of the gallery, it will bomb you. The narco productions, like fentanyl, at least publicly, then it enters a sovereign country. So today, sovereignty, it's pure rhetoric. Each country acts independently. Trump might attack the narcos in Mexico and get applause, but in the US, people wouldn't applaud. They mention over 100,000 yearly deaths due to fentanyl. And is it Mexico's fault? No, it is the consumer's fault. If it were not Mexico, it would be another country that would put them in. But the consumer will always need that. So we all know that it is easy to blame Mexico. So I don't know what Claudia is going to be able to do in that situation to control the drug trafficking and the violence that exists now in Mexico. I think that is the main problem that she is facing. I was looking today at the list, and the first one is that violence, public safety. Second is corruption and transparency. Is corruption going to improve? I don't know. Has he improved it? Anlo asks people to see if he has improved it. Expects some of the same. Well, I don't know how that can be removed when it is something that is practically entrenched in Mexican society. How do you control that? The third problem is economy and social development. Well, I think he can progress, especially in social development, like Aldo's policy, but is this social development beneficial for the economy or the macroeconomy? We don't know. Maybe for the micro it is, but for the macro, which is what matters for a country, I'm unsure how far it can go. The fourth issue is international relations, especially his ties with Trump. I think we've talked enough to see it's not going to be easy. Trump is a chauvinist. So Claudia will treat him with utmost delicacy as she's educated, but we don't know how Trump will treat her.
If it were not Donald Trump himself, he might actually have a chance to win the presidency of the United States. In this particular scenario, I am uncertain if Kamala Harris will be able to step into Joe Biden's role, which is a topic of discussion among many. It would be unprecedented to have two female presidents, specifically in the United States and Mexico. This would imply a new political relationship. Setting that possibility aside, how likely do you think it is for this to happen, either in this way or with a different candidate entirely?
I see it as minimal. I tell you, after the Saturday of the attack, every day, less and less. Look at the repercussion that just today the judge has dismissed the charges against Trump for the misuse of public documents he took home. They've dropped the charges. Then they're going to drop all the charges. People are scared. They'll drop all the charges. Nobody wants to confront Trump, and they are right. Hey, I wouldn't confront Trump. That's just how he is. We create our own monsters. We create our own dictators since Julius Caesar when the Senate made him dictator. So it's the same here. Bring in someone. We know how he is, right? I mean, he's new. And if Trump acted like he did in his first term, well, look how curious. Look how curious. Because when we talked about the numbers, you mentioned the US numbers, the 4 and the 7, that will be the 47 president, even more messianic. All the American numbers are there, the 4 and the 7, 4 minus 7. The 4-7 again, I mean, because he was the 45, the 46 has been Biden, but he's going to be the 47. It's as if everything is finally coming together, aligning perfectly and falling into place. Or a massive burst of all. The belief that America is turning into a theocracy is what we're heading towards, a theocracy, driven by the evangelicals, by the evangelical groups, which comprise only 25%. But they have a lot of strength because those gentlemen vote. They vote. So that base supports Trump. And I tell you, they are turning him into a saint, into the Messiah, who has been saved from an attack by the hand of God, who was there and turned his head away so that only the bullet went through. He's here. So I don't know what to tell you. Now he comes to us as 47 president because the possibility that it really, Kamala Harris, even Michelle Obama, I can see it clearly. Very difficult. That is Kamala Harris at the last moment, not at the last moment in August, could replace Joe Biden. It is not going to win against Trump. And even less so, no poll has been released after the attack, but before the attack. Biden was 4 points up and above all in the most important thing in the swing states that are, in the end, the ones that give you the presidency. Any Democratic candidate, be it Biden, be it Kamala Harris, will win New York, will win in California, but the United States are 50 states. You have the whole Bible Belt that everything goes to Trump and the swing states because it was said that Florida was a swing state, but Florida is not a swing state at all. It's purely Trumpist. That is to say, he is going to sweep. I believe Trump will sweep unless something unexpected happens. Though I can't imagine what would stop him from winning, I tell you that. I don't know anymore. He found guilty on 34 criminal counts. I don't know. He is destined to be for better or for worse, the 47th president of the United States. And we have to live and accept that and get used to that he wants to make America great again. But at what cost? That's what the world has to get ready for. At what cost? Is he going to make America great again? That's the most concerning part of this situation. And as I say, Mexico is your small game to gain more votes.
Manuel, as we approach the conclusion of the program, Mario Morales poses an interesting question to us about the significance of engaging in these numerology calculations. What is the benefit of making decisions if our destiny is already predetermined? Or can we alter it by understanding numerology, as you mentioned in your book, where you suggest that one can consult and access the oracle to evaluate how you are influenced? How is it possible to change a person's destiny through numerology?
I personally don't believe in destiny. Destiny is made by you day by day. It's what all the champions believe. It's based on Calvinism. Remember, we've talked many times about Calvinism. I tell you, 25% evangelicals believe in. They believe God has chosen to save or condemn you before birth then no matter what you do in life, it doesn't really matter because God has already mapped out your destiny for you. Personally, I don't subscribe to that belief. Calvinism attempts to make this notion a bit more plausible and easier to accept. It suggests that there are signs indicating whether you'll be saved or doomed. One such sign is accumulating wealth. In other words, God has chosen you to be prosperous. And when you think about it, it does make some sense if we consider that most global production is poor or semi-poor than the rich. From the Caminista perspective, are God's chosen? It makes perfect sense to me. If you place your faith in Him, then everything makes all the sense in the world. Imagine you are a rag in India, belonging to the untouchable caste, and that is precisely why they refer to you as untouchable. It's because they cannot even make physical contact with you due to the negative actions you've committed in past lives and what your future holds. And if you happen to get near someone, you will pass on ringworm to them. Here in this country, we progressing in that direction. Thus, to begin with, the new untouchables are the immigrants. It's the immigrants we're talking about. What will become the new untouchable, the new form of contempt is going to be precisely that. So, well, it's actually in Hitler's Germany, it was the Jews. And here, it seems it will be the immigrants, as there appears to be an absolute disdain towards them. This nation, which has been built by, however, we are heading in that direction. Indeed, we are moving towards that. So what actions can you take to counteract it? Well, you need to get ready. You must prepare yourself in the sense that you have to come to terms with things as they are in various aspects. As we discussed in the Xi Jinping program, when we talked about China and its leader, Xi Jinping, never oppose the power because power destroys you. Join the power, that is, try to change it from within, but not from the outside, because from the outside, they will lie to you. So what recommendation could I give you? To future President Sheinbaum, let her play Trump's game, which has left her no other choice but to confront him. Nothing. Play along as Andres Manuel did very well. Andres Manuel played along, and it worked out well for Mexico. Mrs. Sheinbaum, who is likely to be the future president, I would advise her, based on the numbers I see concerning her, as well as those of all the others, and considering what I observe around us, to follow Trump's strategy, to follow his approach. If he suggests deploying the army to the border to prevent anyone from crossing, then indeed do not let a single one pass. Send the army to the border, in other words, ensure the army is sent to the border. I would not play games or tell him, well, you help me, send me the army to the border so that they do not pass. In other words, I would be on his side in all aspects. I would not confront him because of his character. A second term is filled with hatred. But if you listen carefully to the evangelical pastors after the attack, they say that this attack has brought about a complete transformation for Trump. On a personal level, which we hope is true, perhaps it results in a more human Trump, showing us a much more human side of Trump, indicating that he is not as fierce and that he is indeed a more human Trump. Maintain a bit more courtesy, but that doesn't stop us. As I mentioned, in 2.5 years, we're heading into a severe economic crisis. And you don't need to be a genius to see the upcoming one, because we've reached that point.
Manuel, to wrap things up, one of the most intriguing questions is about Claudia Scheinbaum's background. She has Jewish roots and is significantly influenced by the Kabbalah. This spiritual tradition, along with its codes and information, plays a considerable role in her life. As someone who studies the Kabbalah, what insights can you share regarding the connection between Kabbalah and numerology? How do these two disciplines intertwine, and what significance does this relationship hold?
There is much connection. Remember, Kabbalistic numerology is ancient. I think it is very old. The Kabbalah really starts in the 3rd century. In Spain with Moses of Leon. The issue I noticed, having studied the Kabbalah for 7 years, as you're aware, is that Kabbalistic numerology seems outdated, very outdated. I feel it hasn't progressed. To grasp Kabbalistic numerology, you need to speak Hebrew. Otherwise, it's nearly impossible to decipher it. So for now, it might be helpful in Israel, but not globally. Worldwide, you should use numerology, which I refer to as the language of the empire. This is the numerology to use at all times right now because it comes in English. You understand? And then you might ask me, well, why would you need English if they are just numbers? Well, it's because often they are actually words or messages that you need to interpret and convert into numbers.
Hebrew Kabbalists substitute letters for numbers instead of using the alphabet, like Hebrew used the English one, to replace or relate letters with numbers.
The messages are mostly going to reach us in English, I assure you. It is the language of the empire, and we are bound to encounter it because almost everything, meaning we would need to analyze it from the roots of the United States. In short, it's somewhat lengthy, and we've discussed it in other programs. But let me remind you, the messages, remember, the book that was written, the Bible codes, wrote 15, 18 years ago that through a computer, they find in the Bible all the characters that have existed. Well, I utilize that, but I engage in numerology in the same way as I do when I decoded Nostradamus' prophecy on Catalonia's future. It's complex, do you get me? In Hebrew. It's not general, you get me? It must be a universal language. The language of the educated. Romans used Greek for cultured communication, and Greek numerology is present. Doing it in Spanish, well, yes, it can help us, especially in Spanish-speaking countries, for very specific problems. But when we talk about general, of global problems that come, the messages are going to come to us in English. They are going to come to us in English, and we are going to have to try to decipher them in English. That is the way we have to go. If you can find it in another language, it is not going to say no. Maybe you can find it in Chinese, but I do not speak Chinese, so will not decipher the Chinese numerology. You know that in China, the most perfect number is 8. In Western numerology, 8 is the number of money. That is, when you get to have a number 8, then you will do very well because it is a number that attracts fortune, abundance in this case. But talking about numerology, I think we must base on what we get in English and especially in Spanish. Connected to the empire, as I have mentioned, in this particular case, it is the American empire. I am referring to the economic empire, the worldwide colonization that is present. Therefore, the messages will be transmitted to us through these channels, and the data that we receive will also come through these avenues. We might discover in other areas, but overall, we will always have to begin with the United States as the focus, since it is the world's most powerful nation, possessing the strongest weapons, and now with a president, or possibly a future president, who will be the most powerful person globally. And then how are you going to react? Well, the numbers are there. They are not exactly. And that Sam, I tell you, it's coming in as number 1, reaching number 4 in over 3 years. And it will explode in its own number, which is complex when it starts a new cycle. But the cycle, as I see it, will twist a lot. It'll get very twisted.
Manuel, you've discussed numerology as a crucial element that can impact everything, influencing a character, a personality like Claudia Sheinbaum. You also mentioned in your books, you mentioned tarot. What type of card might have a reference to that? And if there are other aspects as well, such as astrological, including the Chinese horoscope, how do you view all these various types of elements that could be interconnected?
publications, where we have said many times, you can get everything on Amazon, both in physical book and ebook, as in audiobook, both in English and Spanish. You can get all the publications and you can listen to all the programs on Spotify.
Great. You can get it in this audiobook too, right?
Yes.